Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I reported earlier today that the Senate had voted by a razor-thin majority, 51 to 50, with the tiebreaker vote of Vice President Kamala Harris. There she is. Hello, Vice President, to pass the budget resolution. And now what's going to happen is the committees in the House of Representatives. So there's the House Committee, there's the budget committee, and there is a rules committee. So what's going to happen is the House committee is going to spend approximately a week working on this package. Then they'll essentially pass on their work to the budget committee. The budget committee will work for approximately a week and then will pass on their work to the rules committee. And then the rules committee will essentially prepare the bill that will go on the floor of the House of Representatives for a vote, which is expected to happen at the end of this month. So as you can see on your screen, you have the House committee, then you have the budget committee, and then you have the rules committee. I hope you haven't fallen asleep, but basically the $1.9 trillion package is expected to come up for a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives by the end of the month. House Speaker Pelosi, there she is. Hello, Speaker Pelosi, is in a rush to get stuff done. Here's a statement from the House Speaker on your screen right now that just came out, and in the statement, House Speaker Pelosi says very early this morning the Senate passed a budget resolution that will come back to the House today. I am pleased to write that there have been no changes to the reconciliation instructions to the committees that we sent to the Senate. Senate Democrats successfully defeated efforts by Republicans that attempted to do so. This morning, the chairs of the committees of jurisdiction will meet with President Biden and Vice President Harris to report on where we go from here. As we all know, a budget is a statement of our values. Our work to crush the pandemic and deliver relief to the American people is urgent and of the highest priority. With this budget resolution, we have taken a giant step to save lives and livelihoods. Next week, we will be writing the legislation to create a path to final passage for the Biden American Rescue Plan so that we can finish our work before the end of February. So let me go back and remind you folks, you have the House Committee, the Budget Committee, the Rules Committee. So it takes approximately 1 week, and by the end of the month, we will have a bill that shows up on the floor of the House of Representatives for a vote. And I do want to remind our viewers and subscribers that the first step is a plan or a proposal or a package. The American Rescue Plan, the $1.9 trillion plan from President Biden, is essentially a plan. It is a proposal. The next step is the drafting of a bill, the drafting of an actual bill that is done by the House of Representatives and that is debated on in the House of Representatives and the Senate. And once it passes both the House and the Senate and then goes to President Biden's desk for signing, there's President Biden. Hello, President Biden. Then the bill becomes law. So right now what we have is the process where the plan is being created, is being drafted into a bill. This is going to take approximately 2 to 3 weeks. By the end of February, you heard House Speaker Pelosi say that in her statement. And then that bill, when it goes to the president's desk for signing, that bill then becomes law. You can expect this to become law probably in the first week of March, hopefully before the unemployment benefits run out on the 14th of March. And so folks, that was a stimulus news. Now in other news, we had a grim jobs report in the month of January. Only 49,000 jobs were gained, which shows that the economic recovery is indeed getting stalled. So this is pretty incredible. On your screen, you'll see a tweet from Caitlin Collins from CNN. The president weighed in on this. And in the Oval Office with Democrats, President Biden did comment on the grim jobs report. And the president said at this rate, it could take 10 years before we get to full employment. This is just this morning from the President of the United States. He said that's not hyperbole, that is a fact. President Biden reiterated, we can't do too much here, we can do too little. We can do too little and sputter. Pretty significant comments from the President of the United States. The President also said this, and this is reported by Heather Long from the Washington Post. Only 6,000 private jobs have been created. At the rate, it's going to take 10 years before we get to full employment. And the president said this is about people's lives. This is not just about numbers. And folks, speaking about numbers, here's a new tweet on your screen from Jim Tankersley, who's a tax and economics reporter for the New York Times. And Jim reports that there is some bipartisan pushback in the House on the possible scaling back of direct checks in President Biden's plan. In other words, President Biden's plan is considering lowering the threshold from $75,000, that income threshold, down to $50,000, which means that less people would get the checks. By the way, check out my video where I essentially provided our viewers and subscribers with 5 reasons why the stimulus checks should not be targeted. Definitely check out that video and let me know what you think. And McKinley and Rochester, McKinley is a Republican and Rochester is a Democrat, float an effort to keep the threshold at $75,000 instead of $50,000. So, folks, here's an article on your screen which breaks the news that Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, who's a Democrat from Delaware, and Congressman David B. McKinley, who's a Republican from West Virginia, introduced bipartisan legislation calling for these direct payments, calling for the $1,400 stimulus checks for American families to remain the threshold to remain at $75,000 for single filers. So, folks, here's the quote from Blunt Rochester. As we continue to battle against the health and economic implications of the pandemic, one of the most effective policies that Congress has instituted is direct payments, meaning the stimulus checks. While I was pleased that a $600 check made it into the last stimulus package, the reality is that American families are struggling and need more support. I'm proud to once again join with Representative McKinley to make clear that providing direct relief to the American people should not be a partisan issue. I'm also pleased that our bill will provide additional relief to families who are caring for dependents. Congress must continue to prioritize direct payments for the American people as quickly as possible. In the meantime, here's a quote on your screen from Congressman McKinley. He said, "Today's weak jobs report highlights how American families are struggling and need immediate relief. More than half of households have reported major financial challenges due to the economic and public health crisis. By providing a third round of individual relief, millions of American families would receive the help they need. As Congress continues to negotiate additional stimulus relief measures, we must prioritize family-focused direct assistance to those who need it the most." And I just want to remind our viewers and subscribers that under the current proposal, unless it goes through amendments, I did report yesterday that there were 99 senators who voted for an amendment to the income threshold, but that's a non-binding vote. When the bill actually comes up for a vote in the House and in the Senate, which is expected to happen at the end of this month or in the first week of March, that is when we'll know for sure. But the current version of the plan provides $1,400 stimulus check payments to each adult and each dependent equally. And folks, in case you're wondering, yes, adult dependents would be included. Adult dependents would be included under the current plan, unlike the first two versions of the checks. And a couple filing jointly would receive $2,800. A family of four would receive $5,600. Full payment would go to single filers making under $75,000 and joint filers making under $150,000. And above those levels, the payments would decrease by $5 for every $100. It's the same criteria as in the CARES Act. So this will include eligibility, like I said, for adult dependents, including those with disabilities, seniors that are being cared for, and college students. So this is the update, everyone. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I hope you learned something new. Please give me a like. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I would really appreciate that. That really helps out the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time.